Hi, this is Vivian Peretz from Modern Quilts Unlimited magazine with a refresher course in rotary cutting basics. The key to great cutting is to do it the right way. You're going to need three things in order to make your rotary cutting successful. You're going to need a mat, cutting mat, you're going to need the rulers, and you're going to need the rotary cutters. First, let's talk about the mat. Mats come in a lot of different shapes. This is a table-sized mat, which is great if you have the room for it, but you can get smaller ones to cut smaller pieces. You want to make sure your mat has 1-inch grid lines so that you can use those to line up your fabric. The next one of your vital instruments is your ruler. And rulers come in different shapes and sizes. They come with different types of markings, so you want to make sure you have what you need for the type of cutting that you're doing. There are several different ways to use the ruler. Some have angle marks, and that's good for cutting triangles or bias strips. Mostly I use them for squaring up your fabric or cutting straight strips, lining them up on the mat. Now the rotary cutter is the next vital instrument. It's razor sharp, so you want to be very careful with it. Always keep it closed when you're not actually using it. If you go to put it down, just make it a habit to close it right away. You want to make sure when you're cutting, let's put the ruler on the fabric. You want to hold your rotary cutter straight up and down. Line your ruler up, place your non-dominant hand on the ruler, and line your ruler up with your ruler straight up and down, perpendicular to the table, so that you get a nice even cut, and always cut away from yourself. When you get up as far as you can reach, you want to walk your fingers up, and always keep your fingers spread apart, but never over the edge of the ruler. You don't want to get blood all over your fabric and have to wait months before you get back to what you're working on. Okay, rotary cutters come in several different sizes. Here's a small one, and these are great for detail and tiny curves. This is a 45 millimeter rotary cutter, and it's a general purpose cutter. I use this for most of my cutting. It's good for cutting like 4 layers of fabric all in one time. Then you get into the fancy cutting ones, which you really don't use that much unless you're doing a ragged edge quilt and you want to give it a little different look. Here we have the 60 millimeter rotary cutters, and these are great for heavier fabrics or more layers. Now if you're cutting and you start to see skips when you're cutting, if you're just moving along and cutting with your knife, and it starts to skip, or it starts to veer off to one side, it might be a dull blade and you might be time to change it. A dull blade can really be dangerous too, because you're putting more pressure on it to try to make it cut more, and sometimes it can veer off to the edge and can really be detrimental to your hand too. You might cut your fingers. If you want to cut bias strips with a rotary knife and you want to use the ruler, use a ruler that has the 45-degree marking. Here we have that right here. You want to line the 45-degree angle up with the fold of your fabric, and you want to just cut right along this edge. Now, according to how wide you want your bias strips, then you line your ruler up again and you cut it. If you want a 2.5-inch bias strip, you're going to just cut 2.5-inch strips. I warned you about the razor sharpness of the rotary cutter blades. Now when you take an old one off, I want to talk about what you should do with it. I don't like to just throw it in the trash can. You never know when you're going to reach back in that trash can for a little piece of fabric that you see you want to use again. So sometimes I'll mark the container that the blades come in used, and I'll use one of those to put them in there until it's all full and then throw it away. But if you don't have one of those, tape it to a piece of cardboard, and you can fold that piece up and tape it again and then put it in the garbage can, and you won't be cutting your fingers on that one. Happy quilting!